Well, I'm here at the Anthem Arena. I'm with the one and only Dan Hardy. You're watching the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. Dan, great to see you. Looking very slick. Just about to present the weigh-ins.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone's been on the scales. Everyone's made weight, and we're good to go.
Are you the guy that stands between them at all?
No, we need someone bigger for that. We've got Ray Sefo here for that. I just do that in Europe. Ray Sefo gets the big guys, the playoffs, the championships.
Big Ray Sefo, what a legend he's been in fight sports for a very, very long time. I was talking to Brendan Loughnane earlier. We were talking about a Mount Rushmore for British MMA stars. We got to about 7. Obviously, you're in that list. Are we on the cusp of this thing really taking off? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, we've got PFL Glasgow coming up, and you've looked at that card. We've got veterans at the top, we've got the playoffs right in the middle, and then we've got the prospects on the undercard as well. Like, every stage of mixed martial arts across Europe, even across the world, really, is very strong at the moment. You know, we've got kids coming out of the amateurs, 1, 2, 3-0 as pros, ready to sign with a professional organisation like us. So it's an exciting time, it really is, and we're inundated with good fighters.
Should we also celebrate the fact that you're allowing crossover at the moment? Francis Ngannou's back from 2 boxing matches where he became an even bigger name, and he's come back to the PFL, or come to PFL, fighting Renan Ferreira in Riyadh on October the 19th. You're allowing, I was there with you, Sav Marshall to cross over, Savannah Marshall. Really exciting, thrilling, kind of dramatic event against her opponent, and we're probably going to get her and Claressa Shields. Do we need to look at being innovative in that way?
You know, I don't see any reason why not, especially because there are so many good combat sports athletes out there that are not necessarily grounded in mixed martial arts. I mean, you know, we're coming out of the Olympics. There were great judokas, there were great judo players, great taekwondo artists, great wrestlers, all of which are going to look for a career with the skills that they've already got, potentially to cross over to mixed martial arts. I think, you know, having the door open for the likes of Savannah Marshall, it shows everybody else that there is a path that they can follow if they decide to go in a different route. And, you know, it's exciting for us to get specialists back into the sport again, you know. You
presented with Sean O'Connell in his red shoes, which I found very odd today.
Well, I mean, Sean's got such a selection of shoes, honestly.
He said hundreds of them.
Hundreds. He always has a fantastic pair of shoes on. I'm saying black Converse every day. These work fine for me. Sean's the shoe guy. He has a real good collection.
I digress, and I was teasing about it, but you were up on stage earlier presenting this big press conference with Jake Paul there as well for Renan Ferreira, the super fight in October against Francis Ngannou. How do you see that fight? Do you think the fact that Francis has been in boxing and he's been knocked out in boxing and he's lost twice, or some people think he beat Tyson Fury, and he's been away from MMA a long time, do you think that counts against him against Ferreira?
You know, it certainly could, especially the psychology around it, right? Especially that first round where, I mean, he's not like he's stepping back in against just another heavyweight. Like, this guy is a legit phenom, right?
He's a freak.
He's a freak. He's tall, he's fast, he can do backflips off one leg. It's ridiculous. So then you've got to think, if I'm Francis Ngannou and I'm standing across from this guy, I'm thinking to myself, well, I might wrestle, but then I've got 5 rounds. If I start to slow down over 5 rounds, this guy could beat me up with a jab from a distance. So for me, the confident but reckless Ngannou is the real danger on the feet in this one. And we might see him go back to his wrestling again. But ultimately, I think that the work that Ferreira's done at ATT has really shored up his grappling and his wrestling. So even that's not a foregone conclusion. I think we're going to get a striking extravaganza. And really, honestly, it's the first one to land clean.
Dakota Ditcheva is rising. You've got a handle. I mean, and you're almost like the talent chief as well for Europe. I think you are the talent chief for Europe, for PFL. How many people can you identify at the moment that you believe have really got it to go completely to the top?
You know what? The bracket I'm really excited about right now is the PFL Europe Playoffs for the lightweight division, right? Because you've got Jakub Kasuba, who came back. He's going to try and win it a second time. Across from him, you've got Daniel Skatitsi, whose sister also fought Dakota last year. Then you've got Connor Hughes and Ignacio Capella on the other side. For me, any 4 of those lightweights can transition. There's no doubt they're going to have the skills, the experience if they win that 100,000 to step onto the global roster. And then we talk about Dakota in the women's flyweight division, and you know how good Chanel Dyer is.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw what she did in Newcastle, devastating highlight reel head kick knockout. She's absolutely going to follow in the footsteps of Dakota, and if she wins this year, we might even see them in the same bracket.
That's a super fight for me.
That is a super fight. It would be incredible.
You're a massive detailist. You always were when I knew you as a mixed martial artist. I remember you telling me about tiny little grains of salt you used to use at one point because you had theories about it, and you're a researcher, you're an educated man. You're a real detailist now in your profession as all the things you do for the PFL. I'm not even sure what your title is because you're involved in every little piece of it. If you had a magic wand over the next 2 or 3 years, what would you like to see develop and see change? There's obviously Bellator there, which is part of PFL as well. If you could have a magic wand, or you could have a wish list for the next 2 or 3 years, what would it be?
Well, my first thing straight away, and you're going to expect this, elbows. We need to bring elbows back in. I would very much like the PFL as a brand to be aligned.
Explain why.
Well, there's such an integral part of the sport, not only from the striking art, as me being a Thai boxer, but also for the scoring on the ground, for the activity on the ground, for positions where you can't necessarily posture up to punch because you're going to give an underhook.
It's funny because you watch that moment sometimes and you think, come on, elbows, but they can't do it.
But they can't, and they know they can't do it as well, so that makes them a little bit more controlling on the ground. I feel like elbows open up. Yeah, they cause a bit more damage, but then so do knees and kicks and a good place punch as well. So that'd be the first thing I would change, absolutely. And then, just make sure everybody understands how the brand works, how PFL Europe and MENA and Africa and the other leagues that we're setting up all feed into the global roster. Like, get that education across to the fans, which is really, partly down to me. That's my responsibility.
So we're going to see you in Riyadh and Glasgow and Lyon, and you're everywhere, aren't you?
All those places. You're going to see me in every one of those places, yeah.
Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much.
Likewise, Gareth.
Cheers. Dan Hardy.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.